Namaste and welcome everyone. I'd like to begin with two things. I would like to begin with listening, and then I would like to just tell you about my recent travels. I've just been on the road for 4 days, coming back from the mountains of Denver, and it was lovely for me. Doing long distance driving is very, very much a contemplation, and something came to me just from the experience, from being out in the world for the first time in a while. So I'd just like to share that with you. Nothing I prepare, just more of a visceral sense that has been really coming to me. But I would like to just begin by inviting you just to listen to whatever is in your environment. Try not to discriminate, try not to define or push anything away, but just allow your capacity for hearing to expand, and anything that comes into the vibration of your ears, just allow it. So we'll just relax into this lovely capacity we have just to listen without having to interpret. And the same thing with my voice. No need to listen to it in an instructive way. You can just let in what comes in, and what doesn't come in, just let it fall away. So just keep your listening just very relaxed and open while I just share this a bit of a journey that I just had. So very interesting, making this journey from the Midwest and being on the road. And just feeling, more than anything, feeling and observing just the variety of how people seem to be somewhat disoriented and contracted and afraid and uncomfortable. And so I just stayed with that. And I just stayed with, like, how interesting that we have a yoga that's devoted to exploring the nature and quality of discomfort. And we have various asanas that we can get into the bones, and we can get into the muscles and places in our physical body that hurt. But we also know that the hurt is a collective experience as well. That our collective challenges right now and our collective transformations, but also our collective discomfort. Some of us can really feel that. And it was very exaggerated while I was traveling. I certainly had to keep myself safe, and I was a bit fatigued, and I was driving for long hours and getting to observe just many different kinds of people and situations. And what started to arise from that, just from the exposure to this more collective discomfort, is this, I just felt something was lacking. Something was lacking in how we're able to hold this collective discomfort. And what came to me was humility. And humility is a very challenging thing, at least for me, to talk about, because humility, if we're going to feel its presence, it's a very delicate thing, and it's very much being held in the container of not knowing. So we have our personal journey with this. We have a journey with this with our immediate circle and our community, but we also have a journey of this with the world, a world that is uncomfortable, to say the least, disoriented, to say the least, being challenged, to say the least. And how we deal with this collective discomfort, with this collective pain and hurt. My experience was that there is a lack of humility, a lack of being able to sit not only with the not knowing genuinely, but also being able to honor the not knowing and being able to appreciate that the non-knowing has its own wisdom, and how to sit with that, and how to open one's skin, open one's mind, open one's heart to a deep and genuine humility, and allow humility to be a continual response to individual discomfort, to discomfort within any of our conditions and situations, but also with our collective discomfort. So it was a very interesting heart experience for me to feel this lack of humility that is just pervading and permeating the world, and how I fit in with it, with my own humble teaching of Yin Yoga. And now the contemplation of yoga. So let us begin with two things. We're going to lie flat on the back. And if you could get a towel or a blanket to roll up, I'd like to put a roll under your neck, the back of the neck specifically. So roll up the blanket like this, not necessarily this high. I'm just demonstrating a roll. So we can have it under the neck. And what we're going to do then is to lie down flat on your back and place this roll under the neck. Yeah. So try to avoid the back of the head. So I've rolled it such that the back of my head is off the floor. So my chin is quite elevated, so it feels very supportive. So I would recommend that we want to exaggerate this because we're going to compress into the sides of the neck. And I just want to show you, if you can see my legs, I'll also describe it. What we're going to do when we get started is we're going to take the head and put it to the right. So we're going to look to the right so that roll can compress into the right side of the neck. And then we're going to come into a reclining twist by bringing both legs off to the left. Yes. So an option here that I would like to give with you that turns this, this simple reclining twist into something else is, if you would like, you can leave the left foot flat on the ground and take the right foot and bring it up and over and put it on the floor. So it'll be a bit below that left knee. The foot's flat on the floor. So actually my ankle is kind of pressing right below the knee up towards my left thigh. So this is a variation on a reclining twist that can be really nice. It just sort of, it's hard to explain. You may feel it or not. This is an option. If you would like, you could do it part of the time or not, or you could just let both legs fall over to the right. Also be mindful that when the feet are flat on the floor, hip width distance, and we let them fall, sometimes it's okay to just adjust the feet so you can make room in, especially this, this right hip. Usually the left hip is fine because the leg typically is down, or you have it a little supported. So both legs to the left and over, the head looking to the right. So we're compressing in. So we're kind of twisting this twist all the way up and down. And one of the things that I think is, really very important to, for us to be able to practice. We love to call our yoga a practice, and we love to call our meditation a practice. But with something like humility, I think what's more appropriate is to be available, is to be able to open to just life itself without having to put in separate compartments. I'm doing yoga practice, I'm doing spiritual practice, I'm doing meditation, but just that life itself has the wisdom, it has the intelligence, and it has the capacity to allow us to explore this quality of humility. So we don't need to attach anything to it. It's not necessarily a spiritual quality. It's not necessarily a therapeutic quality. It's something that we have to, in many ways, be available to the mystery of life to start to explore it. And so we have the opportunity then is to take any discomfort that comes our way. So it can be discomfort in a yoga asana. It can be discomfort with another individual. It can be discomfort with the collective world as it is. And instead of rushing to judgment, instead of thinking we know, instead of relying on second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth and seventh hand opinions, we can come into our own beingness. We can see how we feel, see how this discomfort is vibrating within us, and sit with it without knowing, and see if there's the tenderness and the delicacy of humility that's available to us. And as we continue to relax inward, as we draw our senses inward, so we opened with the quality of hearing, we can close our eyes and draw the visual inward. Even the physical sensations have a tingling that feels more inner than outer. Allow yourself to just feel this. Just feel that the senses that are conditioned to be outer and open and stimulated almost constantly, they too can relax. Your hearing can relax, your seeing can relax, your sense of touch can relax, your breathing can relax, your thinking can relax. Just to simply observe this, not to force it or to make it happen, but just to allow this level and this sensitivity of relaxing. Good. So let's bring, if you have the neck off to the right, let's bring that so we have a nice straight spine, and then you can bring the legs up. And before we go to the other side, just let your legs relax out for just a moment, just to let the lower back have some relaxation. You may want the head to go back and forth a little bit to feel all of these sort of complexities in the neck. And this may be a time you may feel the need to readjust the roll. You may need to take it down a little bit. You may need to roll it up a little bit. I'm suggesting the back of the head is off the floor. It's right under the neck, and the chin is a little bit above the forehead. And then when you're ready, we'll do the same thing on the other side. We'll let the head go off to the left, so we'll feel that compression the left side of the neck. We'll let the legs go off to the right. And again, they can just go as they are and make some adjustments, or you can take that foot and put it up and over onto the floor on the other side of the knee. And I do think it is a good practice when we're in this kind of environment, when we're really open to a deeper kind of exploring, to realize that basically we're doing three things. We are first and foremost, well, no, not necessarily first and foremost. Let me take that back. We're doing three things. We're exploring the body in terms of feeling the misalignment of the bones and allowing the fascial restriction to soften enough to bring the bones back into alignment. We're opening up that same fascial restriction in order to let the muscles themselves have more space to breathe and possibly elongate. And we're lubricating all of our joints. So, just very, beneficial to feel just the visceral, the physical aspect of being in a yoga posture. Certainly also we're learning, and I'm being very serious when I say learning. We're learning how to genuinely and deeply relax. We're learning how to relax without the hum or even the subconscious gossip of the mind that's planning something next and concerned about this or that. How to deeply relax, which is tremendously therapeutic for the whole body and especially the brain. And also we're open to exploring this yogic invitation of awakening. And I've come to believe with all of my heart and in my own life and practice that one of the most important aspects of being available to this awakening is not to make it special, is to allow oneself to almost have the image that any truth that we come across, whether it's a truth from a teacher, it's a truth from a scripture, it's a truth from a friend or just life, that it's very much like just a gentle tapping on the shoulder in the morning to wake up. So every night we go to sleep and we just allow the subconscious to express in dreams. We trust that we can go to this consciousness that's not connected to objective experience. Yes, essentially we die to life as we know it, but we are certain that we will wake up. Yes, and hopefully it's a gentle awakening. It's the same thing with what this yogic awakening is, that it can be very very organic and very ordinary. We're just waking up to the nature of the self as this pure, undivided, unlimited awareness that can just have experiences as they come and let them go as they go. So working on the bones and the joints, allowing ourselves to rest in a deeply rejuvenative way, and being open that awakening is always available every moment of every day. It's not special. It's nothing we have to do esoteric practices for, nothing we have to believe in. We just awaken to, oh yes, I am alive and my experiences are unfolding and I'm present with them. Good. So once again, let's bring that head back to a straight spine. Bring the legs up, whatever position you have them in, and we'll straighten out the legs. And let's take, again, a few moments here to two things. You can let the head go back and forth. You can bring the knees up to the chest. We're going to go back into this cervical spine area. So let's just take a little bit of a rest here. Just let all the chi evenly distribute. And, just to say everything that I've been saying, really to navigate this, I think it is always best from the yin perspective to, navigate much, much more with curiosity than with willpower. Yeah, certainly a time and a place for willpower and a certain type of focus, but we also want to balance that with a very fine-tuned curiosity, which goes back to, the way that we use our senses that get very conditioned and how we can bring them inward, let them rest, and feel this intuitive curiosity that's, always very close. Because, I do believe that a certain type of focus, if it is extended for a certain period of time, is rather exhausting. And then it's no longer focus, but it's just sort of a tense kind of use of the senses. So the curiosity is the balance to that, where there's nothing to do with curiosity. It's open-ended, it's expansive. We just rest and listen and trust the intuitive intelligence, the somatic intelligence to guide us. So good. So from here, you can roll over onto your belly. And if you can if you have a big bolster, I'm going to show it on, but you could also use some pillows. You could also use the small bolster. If this is a little too much for the neck, it just depends on how you're feeling in terms of stiffness and any associated fear in the neck. So it works good with a blanket or two. There's only a few things to be careful of with this. So yeah, I'm just going to show it. We're going to put our left ear on here, but then I'm going to turn around to talk about it a little more. So yeah, this is a good view. So we're going to take the left ear and put it on this bolster, and take the left arm and let it relax so the shoulder can relax down. So the shoulder's not up on the bolster or the pillows. So the weight then of this left shoulder will kind of pull you in to this an interesting position. You can also angle the head a little bit. I like to keep the mouth open instead of closed, just because it can offset the jaw in a really nice way. So too much for that, bring something smaller in. So we're just placing the left ear on bolster, or pillow, or blanket, or towel,
but keeping this left arm back. The right arm can just be wherever it wants to be because you may need to support yourself when we change sides. So left ear on here.
And if you're wondering about my, or if you've even noticed, but if you're wondering and you've noticed my oh so stylish haircut, this basically happened at the world's largest truck stop on I-80 in Iowa. And I just pulled in there super tired and late at night. And there's like big trucks in this place, like inside. It's crazy. It's like the Disney World for truckers. And I was just wandering around in somewhat of a daze. And I saw a barbershop. They have a chiropractor, a barbershop, dentist, washing machine, showers. It's a whole community there. It's a subculture. And I just wandered into the barbershop, and she did try to talk me out of it, though. She's like, you have such nice hair. Why are you doing this? And I thought, well, I got to bring some kind of surprise home for my lovely wife. So why not a new fashion statement? So it has nothing to do with my yoga per se, my yoga per se, or my persona per se. It was just a whimsical late night on the road decision. And if you've come into a depth here that feels just a little edgy, or you're not sure, because as you well know, things change over time, moment to moment and minute to minute. So always feel free to make an adjustment. If you don't feel enough is happening, you can put another layer up. If a little too much is happening, bring it down. You want to be as receptive to the sensations as possible with as little effort as possible. So it's this lovely balance between, yes, feeling something, but allowing yourself to drift inward. So really it's more the body that's receiving the more we relax. If it's a little too deep, even a little too deep, and the body will get defensive, and it'll just hold tension and possibly add. What we want to do is allow the tension, the ability to release when it's ready and it feels safe. When we're working with the fascial system, this is a system that cannot be forced. So if we begin to force, it's going to contract. So whenever we're working with pain in this way, most important, the single most important thing is to feel safe. And we typically gauge this by how much we can relax, being in this effortless receptivity. And when I mentioned earlier the three things we're doing, the awakening, the relaxing, and the mechanical stresses into the body, mentioning the alignment of the bones, certainly, but also a certain hydration of the bones. No need to become brittle as we age. It's just not necessary. So a good part of what we're doing, in addition to lubricating the joints with synovial fluids, we are allowing the natural hydration of the bones. Anytime we apply these pressures, these compressions, these stresses, the result then is a production of these various fluids of the body, hyaluronic acid, synovial fluids. So we keep even bones at a, I don't want to say soft, that's not the word, but hydrated is what we want for the bones.
So let's indeed take that right arm, and you can just very slowly, this can be really tricky depending on how deep you are in here, just bring the head back to a straight spine. And then what I'm recommending is whatever support you have, just bring it under the chest a bit, open the legs a little bit past hip width, just support your arms wherever, and we'll just come into a little backward bend here. So let the hips sway if they would like, let the head move around. You can just relax the head down if you like, or back and forth. You can take an inhale breath and bring the chin up. You can let the chin relax down and exhale. So we're just using this as a bit of an interlude, but it's so lovely always feeling and exploring, the connection, all of that time into the cervical spine, and now compressing into the lumbar spine, which are really just, convenience of language to call them that. It's just one spine. So to feel that we just have this lovely, articulation and undulation from sacrum to cervical spine. And then if you want to come up a little bit more, you could put the forearms on whatever bolsters you have and just draw a little bit deeper into this backward bend. So just a little bit of passive movement. And then let's come back down for the other side. So again, this time we'll put the right ear onto whatever support you have. We're going to let the right arm drop back so there's no shoulder on it. Angle however you would like. The left arm can be to the side so you can press yourself up when and if you need to. And just find a place where you can just really settle into any of this tension in that upper spine area. And I do believe, I've come to believe this very clearly, that all of the teachings, it doesn't matter where you receive your teachings. You can receive your teachings from gardening, from crayons and paper, from cooking, from simply breathing deeply in the morning air. Wherever you receive your teachings, if these are teachings of truth, if these are teachings of the intelligence of life,
They are always like just a gentle shaking to wake up. So it's not about accumulating, our teachings are not about accumulating more and more information and knowledge and packaging them into belief systems and a way to approach reality. A reality doesn't need to be approached, it's unfolding always before us. So this is a different kind of listening. This is a listening of just letting the truth of life, the truth of the teachings permeate us. We don't need to understand them. We just allow the truth to permeate us. And this is that gentle, time to wake up, time to wake up. And it says, as organic and simple as waking up in the morning and opening your eyes and discovering that you are still here. Good. So let's put a little support on this left arm and straighten out that head, neck, ooh and ah, if you would like. And then instead of the backward bend, let's go forward bend. Just draw yourself up into a child's pose. So whichever child's pose feels best for you. You can do it unsupported. If you're feeling like some support, put some pillows or a bolster underneath you. So just for a transition here. And then let's come on up, please, if you will, and let's come on forward. What I'd like to do is start off with the lovely half frog, yeah? So we're gonna extend the left leg out, and you don't need to angle it, I'm just doing that to show it to you. So the left leg is just gonna relax out, and then this right leg is gonna open in the back. So, very often this gets a little misunderstood and we think we're pulling this right leg in. So the knees are side by side, but there's nothing wrong with that. But this is much more awkward for the hips and the extended leg hamstring. So it's an opening of this back leg and not to force it. As soon as you feel this right hip start to tug a bit, that's good. Any forcing it, like I said, puts the body in protection defensive mode. So whatever your capacity is. And then if the hips are a little out of alignment and the pelvis is tight, there's usually a a listing over to the left. Yeah, so that would be the port side, I believe. So don't go all the way over. Put some bolstering up as much as you need so you can come forward a bit. So I just put the bolster on the left side so I can relax this left shoulder and come forward. So don't be afraid to build that up. If you don't quite need it on the left side, you can put your bolstering on the inside. So again, we don't want to go too deep into this. This is very unfamiliar hamstring territory, very different than a forward fold, but this will deepen your forward fold over time. So be patient with it. Yep. Or if you don't need the bolstering at all, no problem. You can just relax on the floor and come into the center, and you'll feel the torso weight draw you to right where you need to be. I know there's a lot of awkwardness here, but that's its own form of discomfort. Best to navigate with curiosity and not with willpower. And since we were into the neck area now, try not to hold it. Try not to let the tension from the lower body creep up and hold the neck. It's really okay to let the weight of the skull bring you into the shoulders and the delicacy of the cervical spine. It can always come out if you need to and withdraw and feel safe, but it's good to explore that and not avoid this sometimes imperceptible tension that's in the threads and the fibers of the neck. And if you do find yourself focusing or concentrating, just notice what that feels like energetically. Notice where that is really being initiated from, and see if you can allow it to gently transition into curiosity. And very fine to go back and forth between the two, because often the curiosity will draw you to something that needs a bit of focus. And we can make a mental note of that and we can contemplate that, but we don't want to force the focus. We want to let that contemplation naturally morph back into the open-endedness of curiosity. Yeah, this quality of noticing is a very, very powerful one to start to see what it actually is. We often think we know, but things are moving so quickly. We go from, frame to frame. We go from sensory stimulation to sensory stimulation, and very seldom do we take the time to see what is it that is being stimulated. What is this quality of noticing? So you have the time now. When you notice something, really notice it, and then notice what this noticing is. So let's come on up from here. And let's just transition a bit. So I'm hoping everyone has this left leg forward. If that's the case, let's take that back leg, the right leg, and we'll bring it around front and extend it out. And take that left leg and bring it in so the sole of the left foot is somewhere along the inside of the right leg, making sure that this right leg is relaxed. So the hip mostly is relaxed. We're not holding it from the quadricep. And then the forward bend is much more straightforward. You'll feel this more hips and shoulders, but doesn't have to be strict in that way. I still like to use the body weight going down and then support yourself if you need it. If not, you can just surrender the entire spine, relaxed and forward and soft, and we'll come into the second part. Surrender the spine. That doesn't sound, it sounds like a good idea. I'm not really sure what it means, but give it a try. I definitely went through a phase where I thought, because it's in the sutras, you know, one of our sutras is surrender. And I just made myself crazy trying to surrender. Like, what is this surrender? And then I just came to the point where I was just surrendering, the whole idea of surrendering, and it was just much easier and relaxing. So what I'm suggesting then is that there is a relationship between our discomfort, our pain, our suffering, and the opening, and really being held by this incredibly beautiful quality of humility. So part of this exploration is we don't have to be afraid of the pain and suffering. We don't have to try to fix it, but we can relax into it. We can be curious about it and see if this quality is embedded within, see if there is something to learn, see if the humility has something to offer, has a quality of healing to it. And this is very, very personal way to explore, whether we're exploring with our own body, our own mind, or like I said earlier, within the context of our collective world. There's no, this is where, again, we use the curiosity to navigate. We can't force this. Willpower will not take us there.
Good. So let's come on up from here, please. And let's do a backward bend before we finish that other side. And I just want to show you something. It's been really nice being able to experiment with the blankets and the pillows and the towels and not just the bolsters. So today, this particular class, I did it once for you guys, and I did it once for myself. And the first time I did it, this is something that I've done. It's pretty much a standard backward bend in my repertoire, is rolling up a blanket and then taking the small bolster and putting it over the end of it, just the end of it. And then we sit on the floor and allow the bolster to support the lumbar area. You're more than welcome, if you have the small bolster, to do it this way. So I did it that way the first time. And then I just took this smaller blanket and folded it and put it over the same way. So this is I don't know if you can see, but it's a lot less compressive. And it was really lovely to feel the two different places. I can't say which one I like better, but having the less compression somehow felt like it allowed me to stay a little longer and go a little bit deeper. So always be careful with that compression. If I remember, I want to talk, there was a few questions last week about the fascial barrier and discomfort. I think there's a little misunderstanding about it. So if I remember, I'll say something about that. But always on the lesser side so we can stay longer and, again, cultivate that receptivity. So either a blanket over the end, only the end, or the small bolster over the end. And then we sit on the floor. I always think it's best to keep the feet on the floor, keep this whole thing tucked in, and then just kind of come over it and then relax down. So if the head is good, you can just leave it on the back of the floor. If not, you can bring another towel and support the head. Yeah. And then we let the legs relax out. If the buttocks has come up, if the pelvis is tilted back a bit, then just snuggle down a bit. So it just should feel like this, compressive, form-fitting pressure in the lower back. And then we'll just stay here for a while.
just continue to notice what you are noticing at the level of curiosity. So this means you do not need to come to any conclusions. You don't need to hold on to any information. So whatever experience you are noticing, we're not trying to change it or get rid of it in any way. We're just simply trying to lose our need to define it and judge it and just allow it to be. And just really contemplate the shift in your actual moment to moment life if we were able to do that consistently. And this is part of what the yoga is suggesting, is slow down enough to see the possibility of this and the consequences of this if we're able to simply be with experience without trying to change it in any way, without trying to get rid of it, fix it, alter it, and then just lose our need to define it, lose our need to judge it. And what would that experience be like? And what's pretty incredible about that is then we get to see that there is no such thing as a distraction, because even the distraction, it's an experience that we're noticing. It's an experience that we don't have to lose or get rid of. We simply don't judge it and just observe it, just watch it, just allow it to come and allow it to fade. Slowly begin to take a long deep breath, and just allow the breath to fill you up. So it's a long, slow, deep breath of just filling you up, holding it at the end just for a few beats to feel its presence, and then a long, slow, extended exhale so you feel as if you're emptying out. So do a few of these. Long, very slow, very deep, and feel this undulation, this rhythm of feeling filled, a bit of pressure at the end, and then feeling emptied, and just letting the lungs go right to the bottom, empty them right out. So there's no stagnant prana on the bottom of the lungs. Just do this at your own pace until your curiosity fades into something else. It's something that's lovely to come out of this is to put your feet on the floor, and instead of immediately just rolling off, just bring your body back a bit so you slip out of the lumbar and you bring the pelvis up onto the support. So this is just probably the best way to have a bit of gradual release out of the lower back. So take a little time there, have a little passive motion, just release what needs to be released there. And what I mentioned earlier about the mental noting is, yes, allow yourself to make these little mental notes, because you may want to revisit areas of the body. You know, one of these postures starts to really share something with you. It's always a valid thing to take the time later and go back into them. So your practice doesn't have to be this sort of sequence that I always present. This is just a very general way to do it. You could pick one pose or two poses and, you know, stay in them for much longer. So it's just how your body is really calling for something, and we want to listen to that and not ignore it. When we ignore it, then it gets held. It just manifests as something. We hold it, it just manifests. So we want the body to feel like it's always expressing, it's always releasing. It has your attention. What does it need? Attention, help, love. So listening at that level. So if you're ready, let's come on up and let's do the other side of what we did, the forward bend. Seems so long ago, yes? So this time we'll extend the right leg out, and we're just gonna tug that left hip a bit, not forcing it. We're not trying to do a split here, at least not yet. And then if you're going off to starboard here, put the bolster on that side. If not so much, you can come on the inside or even to the center. So wherever your hamstrings and your hips and your pelvis allows, this is where your body shall relax.
Let's emerge nice and slowly. Just sort of feel the awkwardness start to transform a little bit. So this is various tensions, and this is various alignments in the body, a bit of brittleness in the bones. So from here, then again, let's take that back leg. So we have the right leg straightened. We'll bring the back leg, the left leg around front. Let that stay extended. We'll bring the right leg in. So it's somewhere along the inside of the this left leg, and it doesn't need to be way up. And then the same thing. Try first to relax the lower back. Try not to stretch it out. Yeah, we don't want those muscles too involved. So we're, like I said earlier, we want to open the fascial containers so the muscles then have more room. And the way we do this is by slowly, with great patience, and compressing into them. If we start to activate the muscle too much, the muscle receives, and then it begins to fatigue, and it's a different kind of thing. So let the lower back soften, round, unengage as much as possible. And the invitation is always open to be curious about your breathing. You can breathe as if you're filling yourself and emptying yourself. You can breathe in a very rhythmic kind of way. It's very lovely to just settle into and relax into the actual biological rhythm of the breath and how it's affecting all of the systems and your mental, emotional states. Or you could just breathe with a tremendous gratitude that you're able to breathe and everything that implies. So we always keep this container of curiosity open in our yoga to see where this curiosity wants to lean into our breathing. It doesn't have to be as a technical pranayama. Good. So let's emerge once again. Come on up. And let's extend that leg out and let's lie down, and we will take a bit of a rest now since we've done four forward bends and one backward bend. So make yourself comfortable and we'll come into a short Savasana. So why this great emphasis on experience, noticing our experience? Well, as far as I can tell, it's the only thing that we really have. The only thing is experience, experiencing. And if you can find something other than experiencing, please let me know. The reason this becomes so subtle and so tricky is because we have become naturally conditioned to having to comment on this experience, to having to judge this experience. This is a good experience, this is a bad experience. I wish I wasn't having this, I wish I was having this experience. Defining the experience. So when we can remove that, when we can take the time, we can slow down enough and quiet down enough and have enough clarity to see that it's only experience. This gives us so many more options in how to experience our life, that we can then start to make intelligent, clear choices. Do I need to be judging this experience? Do I need to be defining this experience and labeling the experience, holding on to this experience? So it's a very key core principle. It's one of these little nudgings, shakings that I'm talking about to awakening. That it's literally, and I'm saying this literally, the only thing we have is experience. And then what we do with it determines, for a large extent, the quality of our life, the quality of these experiences. So this is the aspect of yoga that we're open to exploring, as our capacity to rest and rejuvenate and the mechanical anatomical response we get from the body. So let's come on up, please. And I want to have something. I'm going to do this with the small bolster. For this, the small bolster works really well, but you could use something that's quite compatible with the height of it. Try not to go too much higher. So let's see if I took a blanket. Yeah, so this blanket at this height would work just as well. I just want to elevate the femur just a bit, not too much and not just open with nothing. So let's bring the right leg in towards your body and then put either your blanket or the small bolster in front, and we'll put the right leg on that bolster, or pretty much the right foot's part of the leg. So it looks something like this, just an open square with the right leg supported. So this right leg is coming out of that hip socket a bit, you'll feel it. And then this will, hopefully what this does is it takes us a little bit into the SI joint. So if you're not familiar with the SI joint, this is a lovely pose to explore it. And then if you want to have something in front, sometimes that's nice just to go in slowly and support the weight. You may stay here, or you may remove it at some point and just go down to the forearms or the hands. So again, soften the lower back. Let's come forward as naturally and as gently as you can, and we'll just spend some time here. Yeah, SI joint in there, the piriformis in there. It's amazing, just a little bit of playing with the angle of the range of motion of the head of the femur and the hip socket is just a whole bunch of stuff in there. Who really needs to study anatomy when you can just say there's a bunch of stuff in there and you can feel it? I guess one of the reasons to study anatomy that's very interesting is that, we can just we have the capacity not only to take the body apart,
but to look deeply into it. We have the magnification now, we have the technology to go extremely deeply into the depths of the body. And at some level, there's nothing there really. There's just space there, there's pulsation. So even though we can name the parts and we can identify the parts, and a lot of the parts we can fix, we still don't know what this being alive is. The collection of parts is something that we are far from understanding. We can feel it, we can experience it, but what it is, where it comes from, where it goes, is quite mysterious. And this is from our yoga studies, the difference between the matter-based model of reality, when we're looking at all of the matter, yes, from the universe to the body, and thinking, okay, we have all this matter, how does consciousness arise? So that's the matter-based model. Then there's the consciousness-based model that says, no, there's only consciousness, and everything arises and fades within this consciousness. So the yogi's not so interested in the matter, the form. Yes, at a certain level, for, like I said about the joints and the bones, but what we're interested in is seeing the connection between this experiencing and consciousness, and how they're really the same thing. Awareness, consciousness, experiencing, knowing, divine presence, if you will, from in religious terminology. And then everything is pulsing, everything is vibrating from this consciousness. So incredibly simple, but we don't want to take it on faith. We don't want to turn it into a belief system. So this is where we go back to the direct experience without altering it.
Good. So let's come on up from here with this right leg on the bolster. And let's just open both legs out and take whatever you have, whether it's a towel or a small bolster, and just place it under the knees at about the width of whatever you have. And then let's come forward again. And again, here the temptation is to lengthen that lower back, avoid that temptation, and just round it. Bring it in and down. So we're not ever trying to get towards the feet. We're always trying to come in and down more towards between the knees or even into the belly. Good. So let's come up from here. And just like before, let's do a backward bend in between. So I'm going to suggest the large bolster. And if you don't have that, then just build something to this height. So we want to be able to arch the back, buttocks on the floor, head back and over. So blankets piled up, pillow blanket combination. But I'll just show this with this large bolster. And I also have a blanket near my hips, and I'll show you what that might be for. And I also have a pillow near my head. So what we're going to do is we're going to have this horizontal bolstering, and we're going to keep the feet on the floor and start to come over this. Now, sometimes if the pelvis tilts, the hips come up, let them do that so you can see how the upper back is going to react. And I have this a little high, not so much in my lower, more in the mid back, but we can move that as time goes on. So place it wherever you'd like in the mid back, as long as the shoulders are off it here. And then I take my pillow and I support my neck and head in whatever way you need. And this also, you can kind of play with it over time. You may want to remove it, go deeper into the upper spine. And then before you open the legs out, if you're feeling like it's tentative, not safe, too deep, you can take this secondary blanket and put it under the hips, and then there you are. Yeah. So this, as opposed to what we did earlier for back, is more the whole back line. Arms out to the side. So just kind of bolster where need be. You can even put something more under the hips to bring it up, bring something down if you're not using the big bolster. And again, I have this, right now, I have this more towards my upper spine. You could go deeper, but I'm going to suggest a shift after we're in this for a while. So that would be my suggestion, to put it higher. And what's really interesting is how this, this understanding of consciousness ties into our capacity to be humble. So if we do start to get an apprehension or an inkling that everything is consciousness, we are conscious, we are aware, and all our matter, materialism, objective reality, it just arises and fades within this consciousness. If we begin just to get a taste of that, and then we go back to the quality of humility, very often there's a resistance to really true humility because we think it will inhibit our capacity to be wonderful and brilliant and a genius and creative and all of these things that we know are within us. But this is not the case. There is no contradiction there. The humility is in the realization that that brilliance that we are and we express individually is simply only consciousness coming through us. We're simply a conduit. And this is what really great art is. Great art is someone that has this understanding, and they just become this extremely humble vessel for this extremely brilliant genius to come through. They're almost not even there.
So this is so fundamental to our yoga. It's not complicated. And we can verify it. We don't want to turn it into a belief system. We don't need a belief system to understand reality. We just experience reality. We are experiencing. We can't grasp it. It's changing too quickly. This knowingness, this awareness. And then the surrender in our humility is surrendering this, this energy, if you will. It's not even energy, it's just consciousness. It's pure and it's expansive and never ending. But this then comes through all of us in its own unique way. And we don't have to claim fame to it. We don't have to take even responsibility for it. We just have to allow it. We just have to be the cleanest, most available, open vessel we can be, and just trust that this consciousness is able to express itself through us, and just sit in humble gratitude for that. And again, this is not something we want to endeavor to understand. Let the hearing capacity relax. This is something we want to genuinely just be permeated by. Your capacity to experience, your capacity to be aware, the simple, profound truth that you are conscious. We don't need to understand this. We don't need to dismantle a system. We simply let this truth, if it rings true for us, we simply just let it permeate us. And then we feel that little tugging, that little call to awaken. If you want to make a little shift here, sometimes it's nice just to shimmy up or back a little bit, take it from the upper spine, bring it down. Even an inch or so can make a difference. If you don't have a pad you're sitting on, you want to sit on a pad. If you have a pad, you want to remove it. You want to let the neck dangle back more, bring it up more. So just to kind of mix it up and invite some passive movement into this compressive hold. So this would be a good time to do that. Or if you're in an interesting place, just keep letting all this seep in. And this is the thing, you know, if we really and truly want to be at peace, we cannot continue to be looking for it in the external comings and goings of objective experience. This is self-evident because these objective experiences, they come and they go. You know, how can we then, you know, we can maybe hold on to some of them longer than others, but they're all fading, they're all rusting, they're all dissolving. So yoga is saying, let them come and go, enjoy them while you have them, but the peace comes from knowing your own being at the level of this awareness that is self-evident. So it's incredibly simple, it's incredibly ordinary, but it's also incredibly profound. And one of the tricks along the way, one of the delusions along the way is at some point, most of us see, oh yes, these objective experiences, the professions and the relationships and the clothes and the whatever it is objectively is no longer. So then we start to objectify our spiritual practice and we think, oh, there's a state, there's a mystical state, there's something special. And this becomes just another objective experience. But the quality of consciousness, the quality of awareness has no objective experience. It just is. It's just vibrating. It's just pulsating. And this is who we are. This is our beingness. That doesn't come and go. Everything else comes and goes. So the yogi sits back and just lets it come and go and is grounded in the presence of their own being. This is the primary invitation of yoga. Everything else is secondary. And you know, to be in that place continually of wanting so badly and believing that the objective experience will bring us peace, this is torture. This is exhausting. This is one of the main ways that we're holding tension in the body and the mind. The yoga is saying, no, just relax. Go inside, feel that, find that place that you are that's not based on objective experience. And then it's like, okay, thank you. Don't need to torture myself anymore. Okay, so let's start to come out of this. You can do the same thing if you choose to put your feet on the floor. And this is not so much shimmying. You have to elevate the hips and bring the pelvis up on this bolstering. So this can be quite nice. Or if you have the feet on the floor, you can just bring the knees back and forth, twist and twist and twist. Let the muscular tension release, and then you can roll off of this from the lower back. Or if you bring the pelvis up, you can then kind of bring the knees up to the chest a bit. Just make sure muscularly it feels safe before you come out of this. And then coming out of this, let's just roll onto your side in fetal position. So we'll just take a bit of a reprieve here since we want to do the other side of that lovely angled square position. So we'll just take a few moments here. Good. So let's come on up, please. And whatever bolster you use, last time I showed it with this small bolster, but it works with any combination of things that you have. So I'm going to try it with this and see how this feels. So I just have a blanket and a towel. So the last time we brought the left leg in, let's bring the right leg in. So that'll just be on the floor in front of you. And then we'll take this left leg and put it on whatever support you have. So yeah, it's a little bit, tiny bit higher than this. This has got the soft filling, but I like it. It's fine. You know, you got to kind of play with that angle to see, especially when you're coming forward. If it's too much, you know, remove something if you want a little more. But I'm not suggesting the higher one. Sometimes we do this with a bigger bolster. So it's all about playing with the angle of the range of motion. So let's come forward into this forward bend that we did on the other side. Sort of an unwinding of the backward bend might still be there. So go into it slowly. Sometimes nice to just come in and out a bit. I was mentioning the different ways we can approach our breathing earlier, with rhythmically, anatomically, just a feeling of just pure aliveness, the prana of our beingness. But also it's interesting sometimes to bring awareness into lung capacity. So when we're not breathing consciously, you know, during our day, the breath becomes very habitual and typically very shallow. And this over time inhibits our actual lung capacity. So to start to just ease into the edges of the breath a bit is playing with this range of motion. The lungs, the rib cage, the respiratory diaphragm, the scapula. So to exhale a little bit longer, and that emptying of the lungs is preparation to take in a little bit more air, and again, lean into the discomfort of the inhale, see where that range of motion is. And so then we have a vision, if you will, of our lung capacity. And this is just incredibly important to our overall health and well-being, and some say even to our longevity.
So let us come on up from here.
And once again, let's open the legs out and place whatever bolstering you had, just something to support the knees up a bit, to take that compression out of the back of the legs a little bit, not that much, but some of it. And about the width, a little bit past the hips, the width of the small bolster. So if you have the blankets, just replicate that. And then again, we'll just come forward here just to kind of even everything out. One of the things that's particularly beautiful in relation to what I've been saying a bit today about the exploration of consciousness and objective experience, for us as yogis, we're, really looking at everything through the lens of contraction and expansion, the basic pulsation of our cells, the pulsation of the heart. So there's a beautiful section in the Upanishads where they take this into the realm of consciousness. I said earlier that consciousness has no objects, has no objective experience. And so what they're implying is that the body itself, the knowledge that you hold, the structure of your knowledge, the physical aspect of the body is simply a contraction of consciousness. So consciousness itself has this amazing capacity within its intelligence to contract and expand. So when it contracts, that's who we are. It comes into physicality, our karmic incarnation, our knowledge that we hold, the way our life unfolds is simply a contraction of this consciousness. And then it expands back out. And then we, dissolve, do what we do, go back into this current, the current of the ocean. And this is the play. This is the divine theater of existence. Upanishad says it a little more eloquently than I do, but that's the basic idea. So if you would like to come on up now, you can stay here longer if you're in an interesting place, but if you'd like to come up and lie down, we'll take a Savasana. So we'll begin to move towards closing. So I've been leaving the endings of these virtual classes a little open, inviting you to come into a restorative position or your own comfort of Shavasana and stay there as long as you like. And then inviting you if you want to sit up with me, but please feel free to just make yourself comfortable, or like I said, stay in the pose and continue. So we'll just take some time here to come to a close. So if you would like to sit up with me, this would be a good time for us to close. I do not know who or what I am. I wander about concealed and wrapped in thought. Namaste.